The voile curtains gently swayed with the cool breeze of an autumn afternoon, allowing golden rays of sunlight to filter into the room, casting a warm and cozy glow. Amidst this backdrop stood Annie, our protagonist. She and her husband, Paul, lived a comfortable life and seemed to be in a modern-day fairy tale. Paul, with his infectious smile and expressive eyes, was Annie's rock. However, Annie carried with her a tumultuous past. Her battle with depression in her adolescence had left its marks, but it had also shaped her into a strong and resilient woman. She found solace in writing, a means to express her deepest feelings and anguishes, becoming an admired writer in her community. Her friendship with Millie, a lifelong companion, was another pillar in her life. Millie knew Annie like no one else, aware of all her secrets, all her stories. On that afternoon, Annie and Millie were engaged in light-hearted conversation about the new book Annie was about to complete. "It's unbelievable that you're finishing another book already, Annie." Millie expressed her pride, her eyes brimming with admiration. "The characters seem to have a life of their own," Annie replied, smiling. But fate often has a sudden way of interrupting tranquility. A call from the hospital informed Annie that Paul had been in an accident. Annie felt the world spin. With no time to process the news, she grabbed the car keys and rushed to the hospital. Little did she know, that would be the last time she would feel the ground beneath her feet for a long time. The journey to the hospital was interrupted by a terrible crash. Annie was thrown out of the car, and darkness consumed her. Annie, who lived a comfortable and stable life, was now immersed in uncertainties and fears. What did the future hold for her? How would she face these sudden misfortunes that life had presented her with? Would the strength and resilience that had accompanied her in the past be enough to overcome this new adversity? These are questions that only time will answer. The sterile smell of the hospital invaded Annie's nostrils as she fluttered her eyelids open, the harsh fluorescent lights above her causing her to squint. The persistent beeping of the medical devices surrounding her were the only sounds that filled the quiet room. Annie attempted to sit up, but a sharp pain shot through her body and she fell back onto the pillows. The pain was not only physical, it was as if every piece of her was screaming in agony. A doctor entered the room, his white coat contrasting starkly with the bleakness of her surroundings. His face was a mask of practiced sympathy as he broke the news. The accident had left her paralyzed from the waist down. Annie felt as if she had been punched in the gut, the air rushing out of her. She lay there in stunned silence, her world shattering around her. Yet, the doctor wasn't finished. There was another piece of information, a brutal personal blow that was harder to absorb than her physical state. Paul, her loving husband, had left her. His betrayal cut deeper than any physical injury ever could. The one person she thought she could always rely on had abandoned her in her time of need. But the shock was replaced by something much colder and harder when she learned who he had left her for: Millie, her best friend. The person she had confided in, laughed with, and cried with, had stabbed her in the back. She was alone, her world falling apart around her. A tidal wave of emotions threatened to swallow her whole: betrayal, anger, sorrow. For days she wallowed, struggling to cope with the truth of her new reality. But amidst all the pain and confusion, a spark ignited in Annie. A spark of determination that refused to be extinguished by the torrent of her suffering. She was not the kind of woman to be defeated so easily. She had survived her struggles in the past, she could do it again. She decided to face the future head-on, not allowing her disability or Paul's betrayal to define her. She would rebuild her life, piece by piece, with the strength she had left. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but then again, life seldom was. As she began to push through her physical and emotional pain, she felt the first tinges of something she hadn't felt in what seemed like an eternity: hope. It was just a glimmer, but it was there, and it was enough to keep her going. It was enough to end the chapter on a note of optimism, a promise of better things to come despite the arduous journey that lay ahead. She knew the path to recovery would be long and full of challenges, but she was ready to face them head-on. And so, Annie's journey of healing began. Despite all the trials and tribulations, she was resolute. She may have been broken, but she was not beaten. She was stronger than her circumstances, and she was ready to prove it. The next chapter of her life was just beginning, and she was ready to write it on her own terms. Weeks turned into months, and Annie found herself in an unfamiliar world. The hospital room she once resented became her sanctuary, the steady rhythm of her therapy sessions serving as a comforting constant amidst the chaos of her life. Physical therapy was a journey into a realm she'd never known existed. Her therapist, an empathetic woman named Elena, guided her through the grueling regimen with a kindness that defied her steely exterior. Every day was a battle of strength and willpower. She learned to navigate her wheelchair, to tackle the most mundane tasks that were once second nature to her. But her struggles were not only physical. Annie was grappling with the emotional turmoil of her husband's betrayal. She found herself lost in thought, replaying Paul's deceit over and over in her mind. Her heart ached with the pain of his betrayal and the memories they shared. One day, as Annie was lost in her thoughts, Elena said, "Annie, focus on the now, not the what-ifs. You can't change the past, but you can shape your future. Don't let Paul's actions define you." These words stirred something within Annie. They brought a sense of perspective and clarity she had not experienced before. Elena also introduced her to a support group. Here, she met people who were facing their battles, their stories varying yet strikingly similar. They were all warriors, fighting their own demons, learning to adapt and thrive. They shared their struggles, their triumphs, and their hopes. They laughed together, cried together, and healed together. One individual stood out amongst them, a man named Ethan. Ethan, a veteran who'd lost his leg in combat, had a spirit that was as unbreakable as it was inspiring. His life, like Annie's, had taken an unexpected turn, yet he exuded an optimism that was infectious. Annie found herself drawn to him. Their conversations were the highlights of her week, his encouragement and empathy helping her through her darkest days. Yet, her days were still marred with challenges. Each hurdle was a reminder of the life she once had. But Annie was strong. She pushed through, not just for herself, but for her newfound friends, for Elena, and for the people who believed in her. The once monotonous routine of therapy became her saving grace, a stepping stone to reclaiming her life. By the end of this chapter in her life, Annie was not the same woman she had been at the start. She was stronger, both physically and emotionally. Her world had been turned upside down, but she was learning to live in it, to navigate it. She was discovering a strength she never knew she had. She knew her journey was far from over, there were still battles to be fought, wounds to heal, but she had come a long way. She looked forward to what the future held, ready to face whatever came her way. After all, she was a survivor, and she was just getting started. It was within the walls of the rehabilitation center that Annie discovered a profound truth: friendship and love could bloom amidst the most challenging of circumstances. The bond she formed with the individuals in her therapy group was unlike anything she had experienced before. Among the members of her therapy group was Ethan, the war veteran. From the first moment, there was a sense of familiarity and comfort about him. Their shared experiences provided a backdrop for a friendship that evolved organically, their bond deepening with each passing day. Their conversations often spanned hours, as they navigated the intricacies of their newfound lives. They laughed at the absurdities they faced, shared their fears, and celebrated their milestones, no matter how small they seemed. Annie found solace in Ethan's words, his optimism, and his resilience. She saw a spark in him, one that ignited a flame within her. Annie was often lost in his tales of heroism and adventures. The more she learned about Ethan, the more she admired him. He carried his hardships with grace, a smile always present on his face. He was the embodiment of strength and resilience, and she found herself gravitating towards him. One day, as the therapy session ended, Ethan asked, "Would you like to join me for a coffee?" It was a simple question, but it carried a weight she hadn't anticipated. The prospect of spending time with him outside the confines of their therapy sessions filled her with a thrill she hadn't experienced in a long time. "I'd love to," she replied, her heart fluttering with anticipation. Their coffee dates became a regular affair. The world outside their therapy sessions was different, filled with new challenges, but together, they navigated it. These moments, shared over cups of coffee, were their sanctuary. They cherished them, looked forward to them. As the months passed, their bond deepened, morphing into something more profound. Ethan had become more than just a friend. He was her confidant, her source of inspiration, and gradually, the object of her affection. The realization hit Annie one evening as she watched Ethan from across the room. His laugh, his mannerisms, the way he spoke, she found herself enamored by it all. It was an awakening of sorts. She was in love. This newfound love was not like her love for Paul. It was not rooted in naivety or illusion but in reality, shared experiences, and mutual respect. It was a love born out of strength, resilience, and understanding. As Annie lay in bed that night, a smile crossed her lips. Her life had taken an unexpected turn, but she was beginning to see the silver lining. She was excited about what the future held. After all, love had found its way back into her life. And this time, it felt right. The promise of a new day beckoned, and Annie couldn't wait to see what it held for her and Ethan. 9 months later, Annie's life took another remarkable turn. Embracing motherhood was an experience filled with unparalleled joy and unspoken fears. As she cradled her newborn baby girl in her arms, named Lily after Ethan's own mother, she felt an overwhelming surge of love and protectiveness. Lily's eyes, a vivid blue, held a sense of innocence that touched Annie's heart in the most profound way. Life with Lily and Ethan was a testament to the love and resilience that had developed over the last year. The late-night feedings, the first smiles, the coos and giggles filled their home with a warmth that Annie had never thought she'd experience again. Despite the challenges she faced, every hardship felt worthwhile as she watched Lily grow, her baby's happiness reflecting her own. One day, as Annie watched Ethan cradle Lily in his arms, an all-too-familiar pang of sorrow hit her. The sight of their little family was a bittersweet reminder of the life she had once dreamed of with Paul. Millie's laughter echoed in her mind, her betrayal still a raw wound that hadn't completely healed. Taking a deep breath, Annie pushed away the heartbreaking memories. She refused to let the ghosts of her past tarnish the beauty of her present. She had Ethan, who stood by her side, supporting and loving her unconditionally. She had Lily, who was the living embodiment of their love. Annie found solace in the knowledge that the love and the family she had now were different, they were real, built on a foundation of mutual respect and shared experiences. That evening, as Annie held Lily close, she whispered, "You, my darling, are the joy of my life. You and your father. Always remember that, no matter what." As Lily cooed and clung to Annie's finger, Annie felt tears welling up in her eyes. It wasn't easy to let go of the past, but she knew she had to. For Lily, for Ethan, and most importantly, for herself. The past could not be changed, but the future was still unwritten. And Annie was determined to make it a good one. She held her baby closer, letting the warmth of Lily's body seep into her. This was her family. This was her reality. A reality that she would fight for, no matter what. There was a newfound determination in her eyes. She had been through heartache and betrayal, but she had also found love and joy. She was not the same Annie anymore. She was stronger, wiser, and ready to face whatever life had in store for her. As the sun set, painting the sky with hues of red and orange, Annie held her baby girl close. She was ready for the challenges, ready to protect her family, ready to fight for their happiness. The journey ahead was long, but she was ready. because she knew, in her heart, that she was not alone. She had Ethan by her side, and Lily in her arms. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Annie had embraced the joys of motherhood, cherishing every precious moment with Lily. However, a lingering feeling persisted within her, a need to face her past and put her old resentment to rest. The time had come for Annie to seek closure and unravel the truth that had haunted her for so long. Determined and resolute, Annie embarked on a journey to uncover the secrets of Paul and Millie's betrayal. She delved into the depths of her memory, recalling every detail that led to her shattered marriage. With a mix of trepidation and curiosity, she began her search for answers. Her first step was to reconnect with old acquaintances who might have information about Paul and Millie's current situation. She reached out to mutual friends and scoured social media profiles, hoping to find a trace of their lives. It was an arduous task, but Annie was relentless. One evening, while scrolling through a social media feed, a familiar face caught her attention. It was Millie, smiling radiantly in a photograph. Annie's heart skipped a beat as she clicked on Millie's profile, her eyes scanning every post and photo, searching for clues. Her search led her to a series of unexpected revelations. Millie's life had taken a tumultuous turn after leaving Paul. Annie discovered that Millie had betrayed not only her but also Paul, leaving him with nothing. It was a shocking realization that brought a strange mix of emotions, satisfaction, vindication, and a tinge of sympathy. With newfound knowledge, Annie's mind raced with conflicting thoughts. She had initially set out seeking closure and perhaps even a sense of justice, but the reality of Millie's circumstances presented a different perspective. Annie couldn't help but empathize with Paul, knowing the pain and devastation he must have endured. Overwhelmed by a flood of emotions, Annie grappled with the decision of whether to confront Paul or let the past remain in the shadows. She questioned whether forgiveness was possible and if closure could truly be attained. Deep down, she knew that facing her past was an essential step in her journey toward healing. Summoning her courage, Annie composed a heartfelt message to Paul, expressing her desire to meet and talk. She hoped that by confronting the past together, they could find solace and closure, allowing both of them to move forward with their lives. Days turned into nights as Annie anxiously awaited Paul's response. Each passing moment felt like an eternity, and doubts began to seep into her mind. But then, finally, a notification appeared, a message from Paul. He agreed to meet, expressing his own yearning for closure and a chance to make amends. The message ended with a promise: let's face our past and find a way to heal together. With a mix of anticipation and nervousness, Annie prepared herself for the meeting. She rehearsed the words she wanted to say, seeking the right balance between understanding and assertiveness. This encounter would mark a turning point, a pivotal moment in their journey of self-discovery and forgiveness. As the chapter came to a close, Annie's heart raced with both apprehension and hope. The meeting with Paul held the potential to unearth buried emotions, mend broken bonds, and pave the way for a new chapter in their lives. It was a cliffhanger, leaving readers eagerly awaiting the outcome of this significant confrontation, a confrontation that would shape the course of their intertwined destinies. As the day of the long-awaited meeting arrived, a sense of calm washed over Annie. She had spent countless hours reflecting on the journey that had led her to this moment, a journey of pain, growth, and resilience. Today, she would confront Paul not with anger, but with forgiveness. Anxiety gripped her as she walked toward the agreed-upon meeting spot. She took a deep breath, gathering her strength and reminding herself that she was no longer the same woman who had been betrayed by Paul. She had transformed through her experiences, becoming stronger, happier, and filled with empathy. The moment arrived as she caught sight of Paul, standing with a mix of nervousness and anticipation. Their eyes locked, and time seemed to stand still for a brief moment. Annie approached him, her heart pounding with a blend of emotions, forgiveness, understanding, and a flicker of hope. Their conversation started hesitantly, but as they shared their perspectives and opened up about their individual journeys, a sense of catharsis enveloped them. Annie recounted her struggles, the moments of despair and triumph, and how she had found solace in the love she had for Lily, their daughter. Paul, too, bared his soul, expressing his regrets and the profound changes he had undergone during their time apart. He spoke of his remorse, realizing the gravity of his actions and the pain he had caused. Both of them acknowledged the irrevocable damage inflicted upon their relationship, yet they were determined to find healing in a way to move forward. In the depths of their conversation, a remarkable transformation took place, a rekindling of empathy and shared experiences. Annie recognized that the wounds of betrayal ran deep for both of them, and harboring resentment would only perpetuate their pain. Instead, she chose to extend a hand of forgiveness and compassion. With tears in her eyes, Annie uttered the words she never thought she would say, "I forgive you, Paul." It was a turning point, a pivotal moment that released the weight of the past and opened a door to a future marked by healing and growth. Paul, overwhelmed by the magnitude of Annie's forgiveness, embraced her tightly. It was a profound embrace, one filled with a mixture of gratitude, redemption, and the promise of a renewed connection. In that moment, they both felt a glimmer of hope in the possibility of rebuilding what was once shattered. Their journey had taken unexpected turns, filled with pain and heartache. But in that embrace, they found solace in the courage to rise above their past mistakes. Annie was determined to help Paul rise again, just as she had done. Together, they would embark on a path of rediscovery. Did you like this story? Comment below what you think and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.